About 1 month ago now, I updated you guys on Fallout New California. This is an up-and-coming mod for Fallout New Vegas. You may have heard of it in the past under its work-in-progress name, that being Project Brazil. Regardless, what this mod is aiming to do, as you could probably guess by the title, is basically create a whole new quest line and location with new characters and the whole 9 yards. All of this is taking place around the Cajun Pass area in California. So of course you do have some of your major factions from previous Fallout games, the NCR, the She, Super Mutants, Raiders, etc. There's a few other factions that maybe weren't as prevalent in previous games that will be in this mod. Regardless, again, we got a massive update for October. I'm a little bit late on this one, but regardless, it came out on Halloween, and I'll have a link to the full update that was posted on ModDB as well as some of their other websites. But the one I'm basing this off of is from ModDB, and again, you can click on that down below and read it for yourself if you'd like to. So this kind of seems surreal when covering this mod, but basically they are on the final quest. So this mod is almost complete in the sense that it is going to be feature complete, in which case they'll enter into the alpha, try and get rid of all of those bugs throughout the entire mod, and that's probably when a lot of people are actually going to get to experience this. Not the everyday people, but people behind the scenes, other mod authors, and then a beta, which will probably have a much larger scale release. So often we talk about these massive undertakings being years and years out, but this one happens to be almost done. For obvious reasons, they haven't set like a solid release date or anything like that, but it seems like, again, they are on the final quest. This image gives you an idea of what's been done thus far. If you don't know, some of the basics of the story are outlined here. The whole idea of this mod is it's actually meant to be a prequel to Fallout New Vegas, taking place in the events that kind of led up to the NCR's movement into New Vegas. That's going to be one of the endings in this. There's going to be multiple endings, so that's going to be the one they consider canon, if you will. But even further, you're going to start out as a member of Vault 18, then you're going to have to make some choices, go out, you could join the NCR, join the Raiders, and there's going to be a bunch of consequences as of that decision, as well as after that initial major decision, there's a few other factions you can choose to side with and actually get their ending. But regardless, what this image is really meant to convey is how close they are to finishing. As you can see, things are mostly green, which means feature complete, and now it just has to be alpha tested and then beta tested. Then we do have an image of Vega the Gatekeeper. So this is pretty interesting. This is going to be a super mutant cyborg with a thermic lance. He's actually meant to be a rather large or giant foe. This guy's going to be a mini boss that you can encounter from time to time. Basically, like a lot of other video games, there might be one time where you go to encounter him in which he may get away. You don't actually get to finish him off for whatever reason. So it should be an enemy you do get to see a few times throughout the game, unless maybe by some miraculous chance you actually get to kill him the first time you encounter him. I like that. It's something that was kind of absent in some of the other Fallout games, and it's an interesting concept to have in this mod. It feels wrong calling this a mod. I almost want to just say DLC. So we do have New Reno. This is basically going to be a kind of set up world space. We don't actually get to experience this directly, but this mod's actually going to have ending videos for all of the different endings available, and this is going to be one of the potential things in some of those ending videos. Again, this is meant to set up the events that do occur in Fallout New Vegas, so I'm sure some of the endings, depending on which one you do pick, will of course have some storylines that are connected there. Regardless, this is pretty cool because New Reno was a pretty notable location in Fallout 2. Now getting to see kind of a 3D rendition of this is going to be very different, and hopefully that combining with some of your older memories of the previous Fallout game will create a nice kind of nostalgic effect going on. Then we do get some images of the She, this of course being one of the major factions in this. It's actually going to be a joinable faction. Kieva, if I'm pronouncing that right, is going to be the leader of the She Raiders. There's actually going to be 2 unique endings with this. The She, of course, were a major faction in a previous Fallout game. As I did mention, in New California, they will have a presence, obviously not as powerful as their old presence, because this game isn't really meant to be based around them solely, and you're going to be able to see Rebel She Raiders as well as the She Bank in Union City. This is actually pretty cool. It's basically going to be a drop-down animation. They say here that at some point during your quest, a character that maybe you weren't expecting is going to drop down in this really cool fashion in power armor into a pit of burning embers and mutant corpses. Then we also do have a bunch of pictures and this animation for a rocket or missile launch. They say this is going to basically be one of the endings for this, so we don't obviously know how this is going to end or the impact of this missile being launched. They really played it up as it's going to be a massive event. I'm sure there's going to be a lot leading up to this decision, maybe to launch the missile, where to launch the missile, or not to launch the missile. Either way, it seems like it is looking really cool, and I like these big kind of catastrophic events that really hold consequence. There's a number of these in the Fallout games, like blowing up the Institute, blowing up Megaton, or kind of doing the opposite of any of those respective things. And I really like that they're kind of following that same ideology, including something like that in this mod. So one other just kind of tidbit of information, they actually mentioned how there's going to be an Enclave side quest. This is going to be added to any of the 11 endings that are currently available in the game. Some of these endings are of course going to be for the same faction, like we mentioned for the She a little bit earlier on, but maybe 2 different decisions for that faction, and the other ones are just claiming a different victory for a different faction. And they also do mention how there's going to be 11 different videos for all of these different endings, which is really cool to see. You kind of get a nice prologue there, and then you will enter into the Enclave quest. Underlying my voice in this whole video, I've been actually playing some music. This is by them. This is going to be the main menu theme. It's also going to be the theme for the NCR ending, otherwise kind of known as the main ending. They do also touch on how the main endings are going to be for the NCR, the She, the Mob, the Raiders, or the Enclave, and then a few companion endings in New Vegas. And then we have this really spoiler-rich image, so I'm only going to show it to you for a second, but of course you could find it on their ModDB or whatever website you do check them out on. It actually shows you all of the different companions and how they're integrated into the storyline, when you'll meet them, when you can't meet them, things like that. Again, it's kind of hard to cover this mod because a lot of the story and events that will go on are known. You can actually pretty much look up most of these companions and their backstories and quests. For obvious reasons, I don't really want to do that. I want to experience this. I don't want to ruin it for you guys. So I'm now just kind of showing some of the images or concept artwork for these companions without hopefully giving away too much for their stories. And there's a few other images here and there and talking about how they have some more work to do with Fallout 18, but it's actually in the beta phase. It's more of just kind of fixing things up, as well as this gold statue of a dragon, which looks really interesting. And they do mention this will make a lot more sense after you actually play the mod. So yeah, this seems really freaking exciting. Obviously, the main big takeaway here is they're almost done. They're on the final quest of the whole thing, working on the conclusion outro videos, so that's a pretty substantial feat. I imagine we're going to be hearing a lot more about this mod as time does progress and the release date does become closer and closer. I, of course, will be doing a full playthrough of this because, well, it's awesome, and I'm excited to get to experience a proper, fully fledged fan-made mod for Fallout. As always, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys found this video informative. Again, links to everything down below. Check out their social media, their ModDB. But with that, I hope to see you guys all next time. Later.